Now the last gradation exercise that we're going to be doing has to involve a texture gradation. And in the syllabus, I had suggested that you use a cross-hatching technique, but in class, I recommended that we start, or that we use a letter. You can use the first letter of your name or another letter of the alphabet, but it should always be the same letter through the entire thing. And in this case, you can see I've already started this because some of this was demonstrated in class. But the way that you start this is you start by, first of all, creating a 3/4 inch by 8.5 inch box, just the way we did for our gradated tones and our step tones in previous exercises, so that everything that we have is consistent. And when you put this into your folder for future reference, you will have something that looks organized and presentable. But with these, using a letter, and it can be a lowercase letter, it can be an uppercase letter. Again, you're going to use the same amount of pressure on your pencil. Again, these will be done with line as opposed to value. So you're going to create, first of all, you're going to do your letters so they're about evenly spaced apart, and they should be relatively far apart, because that's going to represent your 10% value. So you're starting by doing that all the way across your panel, trying not to create rows of letters. You want them to look fairly random on the page, so that you don't start to create a band of letters as you're working. So you can see what I've done here is basically what is in the 10% area, and you want to do that all the way across before you start to build up the letters in any particular area. So then we're going to go back into, well, if this is considered the 10% area, we're going to go back in, and we're going to put a few more letters in here to try and create a little bit of a darker value. Again, trying not to create rows of letters. And all these letters should be no larger than about 1/4 inch high, so that you don't have these giant letters. Now, as we start to get darker and darker, you're going to find, or in order to create darkness, you're not going to make these letters darker. You're going to actually overlap the letters in order to create a darker tone. And again, you're going to have to control this a little bit so that you get a certain amount of regularity as you're working. And you can see how it's starting to build up. So then, when you get to this dark area, you're going to find that you're going to be, in the 100% area. You don't want these to be totally filled in. You still want to be able to see the texture, but you do want to have a rather dense number of letters that take up most of the white space. But it's still going to look like texture. It's just not going to be a solid gray or black area. And I would recommend that you use an HB pencil, which will give you a little bit more value as you're working. Again, you can go outside the lines in order to get a complete shape, because again, what you'll do is you will use your you will use your eraser shield, which I don't have with me at the moment, but any straight edge area will work if you line it up against your guideline and then erase outside the lines. And take your kneaded eraser against a straight edge, and you can clean up whatever is outside the guideline so that you have a nice clean shape when you're finished. Again, make sure you put something under your hand as you're working so that you don't create smudge marks. On your page. All right, so that is the second exercise for class 2.